Hey guys, what's up? We're back with another video. I'm gonna pause the video here. This is future me editing this footage. It looks like I was a little bit hasty to get back into my scheduled video recordings, and I forgot to change the setting on my camera. So I did my best to mitigate the overexposure without looking like complete poop like the video, which it kind of still does, but kind of sucks, and I really don't want to repost it. So my apologies if the video is super duper overexposed, guys. And it's been a little over 2 weeks since I've last made a video. Usually I like to try to make at least 3 videos per week, but my scheduling didn't permit that this time. But we're a little bit better off this time, so we can get back to our normal scheduled programming. So now, today's video is going to be a little bit of a special one, mostly for my car, not me. I've had this car since 2019, and I just crossed over 100,000 kilometers since I've owned this car. I purchased this car in 2019. It was completely stock. It was actually pretty clean for what it was, actually a lot cleaner than the car I wanted. So I've probably previously hinted this in a previous video, but I originally wanted, like, if you guys want to know my actual desired spec for this car, would be a black 2-door coupe. I don't really care if it's a pre-facelift or a facelift, and for those who don't know what that means, the 8th generation Civics were produced from 2006 to 2011, 2006 to 2008 being the facelift, and then 2009 to 2011 being the later facelifted model. They did fix some issues that the pre-facelift model had, mostly the synchro issues and stuff like that. So I'm one of the lucky ones. I didn't have synchro issues. This transmission is pretty healthy. I can bang second gear pretty good, but I would like to share you guys a little bit of my own journey with this car and what I have gone through personally, because I don't think I've really ever told people what I've done to the car. I mean, I've told people what I've done to the car, but I haven't told them, what actually happened, what things broke, how was my maintenance and stuff like that. This Corolla in front of me is not even paying attention to where he's going. Like, he's thinking it's 2 lanes when the lane merges right above there. Purchased this car in 2019, completely bolt stock. And recently, over the years that I've had it, I have, put on a couple bolt-ons here and there. I've made a little bit more power. It's still a fun car, it's still reliable, but I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a breakdown of what happened to this car and what I went through. So the first thing that went wrong with this car is the brake master cylinder failed on me. And it failed on me in a pretty epic way that was actually kind of scary and sketch. I'm going to close this window up here. So now I gotta wait. Okay, no one's coming. Actually, you can smell that through my car. But anyways, as I was saying, the brake master cylinder pretty much failed in a pretty epic and spectacular fashion, and this was during the winter time, so that makes it even better. It failed where the piston the main piston in the actual assembly itself, the seal around it completely broke, and it was just leaking fluid. I had to fill up my brake fluid at least once. I didn't let it go on for too long because I did have to replace it once, and I saw that it was going a little bit lower. So I used a little bit of brake fluid that I had left, and I pretty much fixed it. But that was pretty sketchy. I literally only had about 5 centimeters of pedal travel. So it was pretty much like I literally just had the bottom pedal to modulate how much braking I would use. And it was pretty much like I had to reteach myself how to drive because the brakes felt totally different from what they normally felt. And that was pretty sketch, and I never want to experience anything like that again. I would say that probably was the most major thing that happened to the car. Now, the second thing that went wrong with the car was the starter. The starter, it didn't completely fail, but the starter was beginning to show signs of typical wear and tear. Now, I would assume the previous owner had driven this car in the city, pretty much like how I do as well. And, you know, cities are very hard on the starter. You're always starting your car up a lot more than someone who drives a little bit more of a longer distance. So yeah, people who drive highway mostly, you guys don't have to worry as much as someone who has their car that resides in the city more. Just a little bit more wear and tear on the starter motor. It didn't completely fail, but when I would turn the key, it would sound like the gears in the starter motor were just spinning. They weren't engaging the engine. And you know, when I took out the assembly and everything, I had discovered that the teeth were a little bit worn down, which was crazy to me. But yeah, the teeth were a little bit worn down. It could have still survived on, but I just didn't want to take the chances. It actually kind of happened around the same time last year. Winter time was coming, and I wanted to have a car, you know, that was reliable. Like, I turn the key, it could be -20 because I do park outside sometimes. There's a little VTEC for you guys. Still lost to a normal car. This car has got literally no torque to it. Otherwise, those were the only two major things that I had to do to the car. And I wouldn't consider the third item a major item because it's basic normal wear and tear on these cars. And that was the PCV valve. Now, it was fine, but it was making a little bit of a grinding noise, sort of like a kind of noise, and I basically decided to replace it because it was pretty much on its way out. I replaced the PCV valve, my gas mileage returned to normal, and everything was pretty much a-okay with the car. But other than that, the car has been pretty solid. I've put on a couple bolt-ons, I've changed the suspension, I've changed the brakes, I've lowered the car a little bit, not too much because this car is a daily driver and I don't want it to be too crazy low where I just can't drive it in the snow and it just becomes like a hassle to drive. Can't really go wrong with the Civic Si being, you know, the enthusiast trim of the Civic, and then you have the Civic Type R, which is a little bit above, but I do recommend an Si as a daily driver over the Type R, just because it's a little bit more practical. It's a lot better on gas. Like, I'm not sure how the H-Gens are compared to the Type R on gas, because I think they're pretty close. I've seen people who tune their cars, their fuel economy drops significantly. So when you guys are tuning this car on Honda at a Flash Pro, make sure you get a professional tune, whether it be a dyno tune or an e-tune. And also ask your tuner for, you know, a daily-able tune that you can drive every day, and then a little bit more of an aggressive map, you know, when you want to go out and have a little bit of spirited fun on the back roads, or just, you know, your regular roads. Oh, an ID buzz. So in the 100,000 kilometers that I've owned this car, it actually has been a pretty good experience, probably one of the best experiences and most reliable experiences that I had. And oil changes, if you guys want to ask me about oil changes, I change my oil. It depends on how I drive the car. So in the early stages, I used to have a job that required me to commute on the highway. So speaking of the highway, I'm just looking over the bridge, and that highway is terrible. I'm so glad that I did not choose the highway. So yeah, oil changes, it really depends on how I drove the car. So in the beginning stages, I drove mostly highway and city, more highway than city, and I would change my oil about 5,000 kilometers. I've been doing that across every single car that I've owned, and I've had no issues. The oil came back really good. My cars have run good, so I'm probably going to keep that interval for any car that I've owned. I've had no issues, and everything runs good. The engine feels smooth, so I'm going to keep it that interval. Now, there has been a little bit of a change in my commute. Now, I don't drive as often, and I do a lot more city driving than what I used to, and now my oil interval is about, I would say, 4,300, which sounds crazy. When people say 4,300, that sounds crazy, or 4,000 kilometers. That's crazy. You're just wasting your money. Mind you, if you actually space out the frequency that I drive, it kind of equates to, you know, similar driving to when I did on the highway. It's just a shorter distance, you know, starting the motor up. It's a little bit harder. So a shorter oil interval wouldn't hurt. And it actually suited me pretty well in that regard. But otherwise, the car has been great with modifications. It hasn't really skipped a beat. Right now, we're pretty good. I'm sitting in here. My car says it's 24 degrees, but it feels a lot hotter than that. And we're sitting here in nice air conditioning. And that was another thing about this car. This was a hot, I know people tend to make a big deal out of it, but having a car with AC is so good. I would say that's the only complaint I got about this car. Just not that much torque to drive around town as fast as I want. But you know, I've had the car for so long, I don't really mind. You kind of get used to it. Some people might get a little bit upset because you're driving a stick shift and you pause between the acceleration, and I don't really care, to be honest. The car is fine. That just comes with the territory. But otherwise, yeah, over 100,000 kilometers. This Civic Si has been pretty good for me. Now, what are some things I'm going to do to the car? I've mentioned that in a previous video, but maintenance-wise, I think the next thing that I'm going to do is purchase a new set of coilovers. Fortunately, these coilovers are approximately 3 years old. I'm running a K-Tune K1 street suspension, probably one of the best coilovers I had for daily driving, which kind of says a lot about it, because usually coilovers and daily driving don't go hand in hand unless you find ones that are damped really well. And I don't recommend, you know, going super duper cheap if you're going for a daily driver, because comfort is going to be something you guys are going to look at in your daily driver. Fortunately, I was kind of expecting them to last a little bit longer, but it's showing signs of, you know, it's getting a little bit tired. The springs are starting to creak like an old mattress. This truck is like weird. Like, you can't go anywhere in front. He's going behind me. He's like switching lanes left and right. I have pretty much fixed all the cosmetic stuff that I wanted to fix. But otherwise, yeah, it's been a solid car. As you can hear, the coilovers are squeaking like a well, not squeaking, they're sort of making a noise like an old mattress there. So hopefully I can hold it out for the winter, and probably next spring I'm thinking about getting new coilovers. I'm thinking about going the same route or going with sort of KW's suspension. Now, I'm not going to go to their circuit line. I'm going to go to one that's more, you know, a little bit more driver friendly on streets, which is kind of the same thing with what I did with the K-Tune K1 coilovers, because they ride really good. I'm very, very impressed. I drive a lot of people around in this car. I commuted it, and they really haven't complained about the ride comfort, about being too harsh. So that was sort of the good thing. But otherwise, guys, it's been a pretty good 100,000 kilometers, and hopefully we can come back in another 100,000 kilometers, or I probably might have a different car by then. We shall see. But otherwise, that's pretty much it, guys, and I hope to see you guys in the next video.